than emotional intelligence. So I'll still try to touch both topics because I'm still passionate about emotional intelligence. I may not have studied it in depth like leadership, but I still have some thoughts and some things to share on that also. Like you heard, if you have questions, please drop it in the chat and we will attend to them when we get to the time for Q&A. I will be turning off my video to enable me start my screen share, and we will go straight into the business of the day. Once again, I want to say a big thank you to ITM for giving me the opportunity to share on leadership and emotional intelligence. And this is an amazing platform that you've created. Like I heard Nafisa speaking a while ago, I think it's a 5-series training that it's going on Wednesday. So I want to encourage all those who have connected today to also make the connection next week, Wednesday. And I'm sure we'll get more details on that at the end of today's session. And since we didn't get to hear about ITM, I will encourage Nafisa to do it all over again, maybe when we get to the end of the session also, so that people who may not know who ITM is and what ITM does could benefit from your products and services. Yeah, so let's go into the business of the day. I mean, it's no longer news that COVID-19 is a disruptor. It's disrupted the way every industry does business. So whether it's in the medical, educational, banking, manufacturing, just name it, every industry has been affected by COVID-19. COVID-19 brought what we call a new normal. It brought what we call the new normal. I've taken a couple of seminars on leading in the new normal, because that is what COVID did. It just disrupted the way we live our lives, disrupted the way we do business, and it's brought what we call a new normal. Now, a new normal requires that you become a new person. And I believe that's one of the reasons ITM has set this up, because to lead and live and do business in the new normal, you need to become a new person. The person you were before COVID can't succeed in leading and doing business post-COVID because everything has changed. I like to say that COVID-19 was a game changer. It changed all the rules on how business is done in virtually every industry. So the new normal requires you to become a new you, okay? And the new you requires continuous personal growth. It just requires, so when you hear about reinvention, reinventing yourself, what we're simply trying to say is that to reinvent yourself, it's simply a product of personal growth, just being on a continual learning curve. You're constantly learning, unlearning, and relearning, okay? So mark those statements I've made. COVID-19 brought a new normal. The new normal requires a new me, okay? It requires a new way of thinking, a new way of doing business, a new way of leading, and everything you can think of. It's changed the way we will live our lives. And that's why I believe seminars like this are very crucial. I was reflecting on a conversation I was having with my wife over lunch on Sunday. She has the privilege to be the proprietress of a school. And when COVID came, it kind of changed the way the educational system operates, and they had no online presence whatsoever. And so it was either they were going to shut down completely or they were going to have to reinvent themselves. And my wife brought me in to just do some consulting for them and to just do some training for her staff and the rest. And I just needed to just change the way they thought. It began by changing their mindset, on how they would do their jobs, because we all resist change. And so there was that initial resistance of the change that COVID brought. It doesn't matter who you are. I mean, when change comes, the natural human tendency is to resist it. And so we went through that process. I'm glad that, they were able to survive that period, and had about 99% enrollment and process. They were able to just navigate and make the disruptions they needed to make to stay in the game. And so the discussion we were having over lunch was how to just lead post-COVID, preparing for the new school year. And she was trying to pick my brain, and we were sharing thoughts, and I was sharing, because for me, I've spent most of my time in training rooms, doing trainings for corporations, leadership training, basically, for corporations. And COVID ended all of that, and I needed to reinvent myself or be out of the game, or at least be out for a season. And I did make that pivot, and I'm still making those pivots to ensure that the mission I have to add value to people. And that's why I'm so glad to be a part of what ITM is doing, because I can see that their first objective is to add value. That's my number one goal in life, to add value to people wherever I meet them, whatever they are doing. And my goal in this webinar is to at least move you at least one step from where you are in your life, in your business, and what you do. I might not be able to take you from point A to Z through this webinar, but at least I could bring some insight and be your thinking partner to help you move at least a step forward, 2 steps forward, 3 steps forward, in your journey. So I'm going to begin by looking at what I titled Disruptive Leadership Post-COVID-19. Remember, I did say that COVID is a disruptor. And so we want to look at disruptive leadership post-COVID-19. After that, we will look a little bit about emotional intelligence, but they are kind of intertwined, that's the way I see it. So now, some action steps up front, okay? Now, there's a saying that the 2 hardest things to get human beings to do are this. Number 1 is to get them to do things in order of priority. And number 2 is to get them to think. These are the 2 most challenging things that people find hard to do. And that's why we're all comfortable with autopilot, automatic. Most people drive automatic cars, so they just put it on drive, and they don't have to do anything. But you see what COVID did? It disrupted us from our comfort zones. It pushed us out of our comfort zone. It pushed us out of the auto mode, where, there's already a system and process. So a lot of times we don't have to think to do things. We just do things, because that's the way things have been done. But COVID came as a disruptor. I took 2 seminars last year, 2 lectures, one on disruptive leadership and one on innovative leadership, not knowing that COVID was going to come. We're working on making that online resources too, but the truth is, whether it's COVID-19 or anything else, there will be things that would disrupt the way we do life and the way we do business. So this is my challenge to you up front before we begin to get into more of the content. There are 3 kinds of thinking. Number 1 is smart thinking. If you're on this webinar, it's already obvious that you are a smart person. Most people will not make out time to attend any seminar, webinar, whatsoever. They're too busy with life to pause, to learn. They're too busy in that auto mood of just doing things the way they've been doing them. They don't want to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So that's what we call smart thinking. And that's where you have good ideas. So you've come to this webinar with some good ideas. There are things that have been working over the years. There might be things that have been working even with COVID within your business, within your life. So that's smart thinking. 2, we have what we call sustained thinking. Sustained thinking. This is where you spend more time thinking and reflecting over those ideas. Okay, so what sustained thinking does, it brings you to what we call great ideas. So remember, we all start with smart thinking. Okay, if you're in that top 20% of people in the world who actually have time to do that, most people don't have time to pause and think. The last one, and which is the one I hope we will tap into, is what we call shared thinking. So that's what my wife was doing with me over lunch on Sunday. we were engaging with what we call shared thinking, where you move from good ideas, from great ideas to better ideas, to better ideas. Okay, so don't just stay in the point where it's good ideas because you're smart, you're sharp. No, there's something more than a good idea. There is a great idea, and that great idea is birthed through sustained thinking, but you take it to the next level through what we call shared thinking. I'm saying this up front, on the front end of our webinar, is so that you can begin to connect the dots between all that you're going to learn in this webinar, how you can take your smart thinking and take the things you will hear to sustain thinking. Maybe you just pick one, then you move it to the next level to shared thinking within your team, within your organization, so that you can come up with better ideas to drive what you are doing. Okay? So promise me that you will do that. If you will do that, go to the chat room and say, I take the challenge. Okay? I take the challenge to just move from smart thinking. I will graduate to sustained thinking, and I will get to the point where we have shared thinking. That's the birthplace of the best ideas and the best corporations in the world. This is what they engage in. Okay, so they have members of a team who have smart thinking. They have something, they have ideas to bring to the table, and they challenge themselves to incubate those things, and they come up with great ideas. Then they share them together, and they leave the table with better ideas that can, drive things. And you can be the disruptor, okay, where you disrupt things, okay, because leaders have to learn how to also disrupt and not wait to be disrupted. That's the whole thing about leadership. Okay, that's the difference between leadership and management. At the end of the day, a leader is naturally a disruptor. He just disrupts. Okay, so let's move ahead. Okay, now Forbes magazine says COVID-19 is creating crisis but also creating opportunities. I mean, we will all agree with Forbes. It's brought crisis in every sector. With what you guys do in ITM, whether it's in supply chain, whether it's in the industry sector, in human resource, and the rest, it's brought crisis on the way business is done. Okay, but it's creating opportunities. But you see, it takes leaders who have that mindset, who have the right mindset, who have smart thinking, sustained thinking, shared thinking, to actually see the opportunities that COVID has created. Okay, so I'd like you to write down this question. There's something called psychoneuromotor skills. So I'd like you to engage psychoneuromotor skills. That as you write, you're sending signals to your subconscious mind to actually come up with ideas and solutions to the things that you're writing. You're connecting the dots, okay? Writing is a very powerful way of sending signals from the subconscious to the conscious, okay? Now, so the question is this: what opportunities is COVID-19 creating in our industry? Write down that question. What opportunities? And it becomes an issue of discussion when you come for your management meetings, your team meetings. What are the opportunities? Yes, there is crisis, no doubt about it. We're not living in denial, okay? But our job as leaders is to see the opportunities in the midst of the crisis. Okay? So what opportunities is COVID-19 creating? I mean, leaders must see before, leaders must see more. It's very important. Don't wait for the dust to settle and we begin to have the bandwagon effect where everybody begins to copy the person who foresaw it. No, you can be the first to see it. Okay? While others are in the panic mode. I initially went into panic mode when COVID came because it cost me money. I should have been in the US, the UK and the US facilitating some trainings. It didn't work. I'd spent money, booked. Thank God some of it came back because I like to plan way ahead of time. And so that has consequences even with the airlines before COVID came and they were willing to pay people back and all of that. So I did lose some money here and there, by and by. And the trainings didn't take place. So money that should have come in from them did not come in. So it created a crisis. But I like to always say, and I said this to my wife as she was bemoaning their experience in the educational sector, I said, crisis also creates content. One thing the COVID has done for me personally, the time I usually would have spent in training rooms or boardrooms with leaders and executives and management teams, I'm spending it in my study creating content. So crisis also creates content. What content is the COVID crisis providing for your organization to provide for its clients? So Forbes said it does, and I'm just sharing my own thoughts on that. Now, these are examples of companies that emerge. I mean, back in the days when there were different recession, top companies that came. So we see Disney there that emerged in 1923, 24, the recession. Then we see Hewlett Packard, we see Microsoft, we see the CNN, we see FedEx. All of them were byproducts of a crisis, economic recession that came. So indeed, though COVID is creating crisis, I mean, you will all agree with me. I know you're smart people, that there are businesses that have been birthed, there are ideas that have been birthed or emerged from this crisis. I remember during the lockdown, I mean, one of the major corporations that we serve, they decided to do something for their main executives after the lockdown, just a couple of them, social distancing and the rest. That was the first time being in the room after the whole COVID thing, I think about a month or so ago. And one of the ladies was sharing her experience how during the lockdown, a lot of young men around, I mean, no wives on their own, couldn't cook, couldn't do that. And that gave birth to her business of selling food. She has a job, a federal government job. She is a senior executive within an organization, but she saw an opportunity then and she cashed into it. So, I mean, what's the next company that is going to come out of this? What's the next subsidiary that is going to come out of COVID? It's food for thought. Now, Albert Einstein, one of the great minds that I love, said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. It's a common trend that you hear from leaders. That's what just differentiates a leader from a follower. They're able to see the big picture, the bigger picture, the clearer picture, even in the midst of the crisis or the storm. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity, but it takes you having that leadership lens, having emotional intelligence to be able to see the opportunities that lie there. Now, my mentor, Dr. Maxwell, says, crisis reveals the difference between good leaders and great leaders. I mean, you will all agree with me if you work in any environment where you have a team that you've been able, because crisis is a great revealer. Each time there's disruption, it kind of sets apart the good from the great. If you've read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, you know, that's one thing the crisis does. It just reveals the difference between good leaders and great leaders. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's a great revealer. Now, I like this statement. All leaders are learners. You know, I've said this. We talked about there's a new normal, and the new normal requires a new you. And the new you is not possible without continuous learning. It's impossible. So when you talk about reinventing a person, reinventing a business, reinventing a model, it requires a lot of learning, unlearning and relearning. All leaders are learners. Not all learners are leaders, but all leaders are learners. Now, this is one of my quotes. I said, the leader never takes the L off his or her life. The leader never takes the L off his or her life. Because the moment we do that, we begin to have what I call leadership accidents. So never take that L off. I constantly share the story of when I was learning how to drive in the city of Lagos many years ago. And my office was in Apapa. I lived in Victoria Island. I refused to put an L on my car, and it was basically out of pride. I didn't want people to know I was learning how to drive. I mean, it was just mercy that I didn't have a crash. I saw all kinds of things. Those of you who know Lagos, Nigeria, will understand what I'm trying to say. Driving from Victoria Island to Apapa, it's a crazy thing and all of that. And the L is very important. You know, when someone has an L on the car, people give you leverage, okay? So, I mean, the leader should never claim to know it all. That's why I say I'm a student of leadership. I've been on this topic, intentionally since 1996, learning, unlearning, relearning, but I don't see myself as an expert. I mean, like Simon Sinek says, I mean, all leaders see themselves as students. They don't see themselves as the expert. The leader never takes the L off. You do that, you begin to have leadership accidents. So when we stop learning, we stop leading, even if we still have a position. And anybody who knows the 5 levels of leadership by Dr. Maxwell, one of our flagship trainings, talks about positional leadership being the lowest level of leadership. Okay, so when we stop learning, we stop leading, even if we have a position. I'm just trying to reinforce this point. I'm saying the same thing in different ways because the number one law of learning from the Greek is repetition. You say it again, you just repeat it again and again till it sinks in that I am a learner. I must never stop learning if I would keep navigating the changes that take place. Now, learning helps us to keep changing to meet up with the reality of the times. And so you see, inside the caterpillar is the potential to become a beautiful butterfly. So it begins by crawling, but it has the potential to fly. And it has to go through a process we call metamorphosis. That process of metamorphosis for us as humans is a process of learning, unlearning, and relearning. We're trying to become the best versions of ourselves. We're trying to get to our full potential. As things change, we are also changing as things change. Wow. I like this statement by Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum of Dubai, the great leader of Dubai. I mean, who was able to turn a desert into an oasis, an amazing place. I always share my story of how when I first traveled to Dubai, and it was even a transit that trip, and I noticed they had ice cream tubs all over the airport, and it was free. And I won't tell you how many cups of ice cream I went to take while waiting for my long layover in Dubai. I mean, that takes great thinking from a great leader. But he says, if we don't change, we will be changed. And that's why he's never satisfied with when he makes one accomplishment. He's trying to disrupt his last achievement with a better one. Because, I mean, it's very easy. I don't know about you, but for me, it's harder to stay successful than be successful. And the reason why you have people who are successful today and not successful tomorrow is because they stop changing. And why did they stop changing? Because they stopped learning. So if you, Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum's book, The Flash of Thoughts, is a small read. So it's something you can pick up and read, I mean, in a couple of hours. You know, he talks about, I mean, just how his hunger for learning came, how he learned from the United States, how he learned from the people in the UK, how they're able to gather and generate ideas. And one year they were able to come up with 20,000 ideas, you know, and if we don't change, we will be changed. So COVID-19 is causing a lot of people to be taken out of the game of business because they're refusing to change. These are my 3 leadership case studies for the year 2020. I decided this last year, and I just began to study their lives, study their leadership models, and the things that make them tick. Okay, so we see Ben Rashid Al Maktoum of Dubai, we see Paul Kagame of Rwanda, and we see Jack Ma of China. You know, so you can come up with what are your own leadership case studies, because I mean, you can't succeed in just learning from yourself or learning from your experiences. Life is too short to learn from your own experience. You must learn from other people's experiences. I'm an economist by training, so we know the importance of case studies. Okay, so these 3 people face disruptions and failure and crisis and chaos in their personal life, their business, their countries, but they were able to evolve to become what they have become and what they are becoming. So who are you learning from? As food for thought. I like what Eric Hoffer, the social philosopher, said. He said, in times of change, learners inherit the earth while learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. I mean, the moment you take off that L, you will discover that you are beautifully equipped to deal with a world that doesn't exist. The world post-COVID has changed. So it takes continuous learning for you to keep inheriting the earth, the opportunities that are there. So even in the midst of COVID, Jeff Bezos was counting his billions at the bank, and his income was going up. And Tim Cook and all those big names that we know in the industry, in the midst of a looming recession, how are they doing it? It's because these guys are continuous learners. And we're going to get into their minds in a moment. The things that I believe they're doing from studying their models and studying their lives. So we can apply it at our own little level, because I always learn to adapt before I adopt. I learned that from one of my mentors. Now, go to the chat room very quickly and tell me what you see in the picture and what you think is the difference between these two pictures. Let's do that in 2 minutes. Okay, let's do that in 120 seconds. The two pictures on the screen, what can you see, and what does this describe to you? Maybe in one word you want to tell me what you think it describes. Okay, just go to the chat room. Okay, let's do that in a jiffy. What do these images, just give me one word. Adoption versus giving up, okay. The first picture, I see a man riding on the storm, okay, great. One person is surfing, the other looks like he's drowning, great. Good, any more thoughts, any more perspective on these images? Let's get two more. Perfection and learning, okay, great. Surviving and dying, great. Second picture is asking for help, good. Thank you for your perspective, amazing perspective. I mean, that shows you the amount of perspective that exists in the room right now, okay? Everybody was seeing things from a different perspective. Yeah, so it's obvious that it's the same water, the same sea. One person seems to be having fun, one is swamped with fear and is drowning. And I know that feeling because, I mean, when I used to live in the city of Lagos, Sunday mornings, it was the beach. And we would go not surfing, but what we call bodyboarding, you know, and it was fun because I learned how to do it from a friend of mine, Abu, and it was just an exciting time doing that. But those who did not know how to do it were not dare to go into the Bar Beach or Lekki Beach or Alpha Beach or on all those beaches that exist over there. That's what learning does. So post-COVID now, if you're not learning on learning and you're in the seat of a learner consistently, you just discover that what seems to be drowning others is lifting, because the surfer needs the waves to lift him up. He's looking forward to the waves to lift him up, while the other person is being drowned by the waves. And that's what we're seeing right now in every industry. And the difference is the fact that some people haven't learned what it means to be a disruptive leader. They haven't learned how to navigate these storms that come and go. I mean, if it's not COVID, something else is going to come. Peter Drucker talks about the 3 C's of the 21st century: change, competition, and complexity. So if you're not dealing with change, you're going to deal with the complexities that are there. You're going to deal with competition. But learning, unlearning, and relearning as leaders will help us to surf the waves, whatever waves it is that comes. We don't have to drown. Now, that takes me to what the World Economic Forum talks about, the top skills. So the word there is just skill, okay? The word there, the difference between those two images, if we go back, is skill, okay? It's skills that we need to learn. I mean, you don't have the skills, you can get killed, okay? There are skills that ensure that you don't get killed, okay? Now, so the World Economic Forum last year spoke about the top 10 skills for 2020. Okay, number 1 was complex problem solving and how we need that right now. They talked about critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others or teamwork, emotional intelligence. You guys did your homework well. Judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, cognitive flexibility. So those are the top 10 skills that the World Economic Forum was saying that people will need to learn, and every leader needs to fully grasp these things. And let me just back up a bit for somebody who wants to take a screenshot, to get that, so that you look at, okay, so what am I missing out on that I need? Okay, or what can our business do? Like ITM does, is a training organization too. I mean, what kind of content can we create to serve our clients, in these top areas? Okay, great. Now, so who is a disruptive leader? Okay. Now, when you see this thing, just know it's based on research. Okay. So sometimes you can search for the research of other people to help you to be on top of your game. Okay. Who is a disruptive leader? A disruptive leader is one who is always seeking for improved methods and processes. Always. Take note, always seeking to improve. So you don't wait for a disruption to come before you seek. You're always anticipating. I like to go through things and ask myself, I shared a while ago that my wife runs a school. When she was beginning it 10 years ago, the question I asked, okay, so what if it doesn't work? What is the worst case scenario? And you wrap your mind all the possible scenarios. So you're able to come up with solutions to that. So a disruptive leader is always seeking for improved methods and processes. Unfortunately, we get comfortable when we're getting results, and then we get to the status quo, we plateau, and we stop seeking improved methods and processes because the profit is coming until a disruption comes like COVID. A disruptive leader is not afraid of changing things to get results. Okay, so sometimes the method or the process may be working but needs to be changed. Okay, so you've been doing it for the last 5 years, you've been doing it for the last 10 years, and that statement, if it's not broken, why fix it, doesn't exist again. It doesn't fit into the world today. It did at that time. Okay, yeah, because as a leader, you're constantly seeing ahead and thinking ahead. So if it's not broken, yes, you don't have to fix it, you can change it. Okay. Thirdly, disruptive leaders don't seek security, but they seek opportunities. Unfortunately, most people, and that's what differentiates leaders from followers. Followers are seeking comfort zone, they're seeking job security and all of that, but the leader is seeking opportunities. So he's going into unknown territories. Okay? All the things that we used to see in those movies back in the days, all those space movies, Star Wars and things like that, we're seeing all those things evolve today, and they're becoming technology today because some people just saw way ahead and they thought they were crazy. Disruptive leaders are willing to take a risk to get results. So we're seeing key things there. They are always seeking improved methods and processes. They are not afraid of changing things to get results. They will be criticized. They will be misunderstood. But they know that 5 years, 10 years, right now, it could be even 6 months. It could even be 3 months. The whole thing will be changed. They're seeking security opportunities. They're not seeking security, and they are willing to take risk to get results. I have some questions for you. I'd like you to write down. Now, with the whole COVID from March, and this is August, what new methods or processes have you come up with? Write it down. What new methods or processes have I come up with? Okay, we've gone through the storm. We might still be in the COVID storm, but I'm sure as a leader, you've been thinking through it. Okay. 2, what have you changed in the way you do things in the last 6 months? What have you changed? Or are you just waiting for things to go back to normal? Things are not going to go back to normal. It's a new normal. That's why it needs a new you. When was the last time you took a risk to get results? You risk being misunderstood. You risk being criticized. You risk. They call entrepreneurs and basic economists people who are willing to take a risk. They take wise risk. Now, so there are 4 stages in our development as people within an organization. Okay, let me move fast. We have the employee stage, the supervisor stage, the manager, and the leader. So all I've been sharing so far is essentially, I mean, if you want to climb up the ladder of to become a leader who has influence in your space, in your industry, in your niche, it's important that you're reflecting on the things I've been sharing. Employees don't really bother about that, you know, and just to let you know that you might not be the top person, you may not have the corner office, but you can still be a leader. Positional leadership is the lowest level. You can still be someone who has influence there. You're always bringing great ideas to the table to help your boss to achieve the goals. So employee, supervisor, manager, leader. Now, these are examples of companies that refuse to think ahead. They refuse to pivot when things were changing. So like Al-Matum said, change or be changed. They refused to change and they were changed. Okay? Now, these are some disruptive companies that exist. So we see Amazon, we see Airbnb, we see our John Maxwell team that has over 30-something thousand speakers, trainers, coaches in over 170 countries of the world, you know, that are the hands and the feet of our founder. An amazing thing. Disrupted the entire training industry. We see Wikipedia, we see Uber, we see Google, we see Facebook, we see Netflix. These are companies that are led by leaders who came up with disruptive ideas that disrupted their industry. And I can tell you, COVID has even disrupted some of their models also, but they are thinking ahead on how to just stay in the game. The question is this: will my business, will your business be included on this page post-COVID-19? Now, so let's quickly look at what I call the DNA of a disruptive leader. I'm trying to compress more like a 2-day full training for you in 1 hour. Okay, so bear with me if I seem to be a bit fast. I want to just give you value for your time and ensure that at least I move you a step ahead in your journey, whatever level of leadership you may be in, top level, mid level, or the low level. So what is the DNA of a disruptive leader? I'm going to just fly through these things. Like I said, it's a 2-day full day training that I'm trying to compress. So one is what we call clarity. So we're looking at the DNA. I mean, every organization needs to have the DNA that when you see someone that has these attributes, you know that this is where they come from. In the John Maxwell team, we have what we call the JMT DNA. Okay, so number one is clarity. I mean, regardless of the chaos, the crisis, the confusion, disruptive leaders are clear of why they exist. Okay, they're very clear. And that's the number one element in human and organizational productivity. You can Google it. What is the number one, element when it comes to whether it's personal or corporate productivity? It's clarity. We're clear of our why. Why do we exist? Our mission, our values, our core values, there's clarity. Because if you're not clear about that, you might be swamped away with the tsunami. Because the why always gives birth to how and what we do. And so we're firm with our mission, but we're very flexible with the methods that we use to accomplish them. So COVID has changed the methods, but we're clear on what our mission is. Clarity. 2 is competence. Competence. I mean, the required abilities, skills, and talents to accomplish your why. So right now we're learning that the level, the kind of abilities and skills that are required to not just survive, but thrive post-COVID has changed. And it requires you to just look at, okay, so what are the core competencies that are required for leaders in my industry at this time and post-COVID? Okay? You're staying in your strength zone, but you're getting out of your comfort zone. You're staying around where you have comparative advantage, but you're building your core competencies. I call that through education, formal, informal, exposure, experience. 2 is curiosity. That strong desire to know and to learn something. I mean, you're not satisfied with the status quo. You know there's more out there, okay? You're not waiting for something to happen before you look for it. Like the child there with the microscope, just going there and engaging nature and learning. And that's how people just learn new things. I mean, a strong desire to know and learn something. the desire to find answers, to explore. Okay, so people who are curious know that there's more than one answer. There's not just a plan A or plan B. There's a plan A to Z. I mean, exhaust the alphabet. The alphabet has 26 letters. Curious people are not satisfied with plan A. I mean, they're curious, so they just have a hunger to just keep searching and exploring. The next one is creativity. So that's the act of turning new and imaginative ideas into reality. So you're able to connect the dots between learning and living and leading. It's so crucial. Thinking out of the box, destroying the box. Okay? It's very crucial. This is the DNA of a disruptive leader. He's clear, he's competent, he's curious, he's creative. This takes me to the next one, which is communication. In any organization, there needs to be a free flow of communication so that people can share their ideas. Remember where we began? Smart ideas, sustained smart thinking, sustained thinking, shared thinking. If you haven't created an environment within the system where you work for there to be shared thinking, you're leaving a lot on the table. You're missing out. John Maxwell, my mentor, says, some of my best thinking has been done by others. Amazing statement. And it's true communication that there's exchange of information, exchange of ideas and thoughts. People must be allowed to express their ideas, even if it looks foolish. There's something to extract from that foolish idea. Remember, it's many good ideas that give birth to a great idea. You need to allow there to be free communication. And that's one thing that disruptive leaders look for. They have a listening ear. So they listen. I'm learning this, that the CEO is also the CLO, the Chief Listening Officer, because some of your best thinking will be done by others. The next one is collaboration. I believe you follow this sequence. Teamwork is what makes the dream work. One of us is not as smart as all of us. Teamwork is what makes the dream work. One of us is not as smart as all of us. I'm sure you must have heard of the acronym TEAM. Together, everybody accomplishes more. I say that collaboration is the currency of the 21st century. That's what is going on right now between me and ITM. It's a collaboration, and it's creating the learning experience for you. It is the currency of the 21st century, collaboration. That is part of the DNA of a disruptive leader. So he knows that, and he creates an environment for there to be collaboration versus competition. So you find that a lot of the top players in the top industries are friends, they share ideas, and they collaborate to get things done. Somebody else might be creating the software, somebody else is creating the hardware, and it's a collaborative effort. The next thing is courage. Courage is key. We heard that in the definition of a disruptive leader. Taking risks to get results, acting in spite of uncertainty. Okay, so we're not sure we're going to get the results, but we act in spite of. You can see the fish jumping out of the comfort zone, the secure zone inside the bowl into that massive river of opportunities that exist there. COVID has created opportunities. Let's jump out of our comfort zone into this massive opportunity that exists. The next one is coaching. Coaching is a very, very integral part of being a disruptive leader and navigating through these times, in the sense that you must, what coaching does, it creates accountability that brings you to a higher level of awareness for action that brings results. Because a lot of people know what to do, but because there's no accountability, they don't act. For me, this is a game changer. I find coaching clients who are at point A being able to move within a short period to point D, E, F, G, simply because they brought the accountability into the equation, okay? Because what a coach does, he holds you accountable to a higher level of awareness for action that brings results. Because you don't get what you expect, you get what you inspect. I'm sure you must know that in your industry, okay? Let's move ahead quickly. Commitment. That's part of the DNA of disruptive leaders. Commitment. Okay, they are 100% in. It's all or nothing. Okay, they don't put one leg in and one leg out. No, they're willing. They burn their bridges. They're willing to do more than is expected. They go the extra mile. They are dedicated to the cause. They go all in. That is their DNA, and that's why they're willing to take those risks and make those sacrifices, even as employees, and all of that. I remember challenging when my wife brought in to do some consulting for them and to train their staff. I told them, listen, if you guys don't do the work at the end of the day, you're not committed all in, and people don't pay, there's obviously no money to pay you. This reminds me of a story of a salesman who went to do some business in the city. And he came out to the hotel restaurant eating, and it was raining cats and dogs. And so he asked the hotel, the waitress, I think one of the waitresses in the restaurant, if she has any idea, maybe from the weather report, when the rain will stop. If the rain will stop, whether he could go out. Do you think it's going to stop raining so I can go out? She said, well, it depends on whether you're on commission or you're on salary. Okay? Are you on commission or salary? What she was indirectly telling, if you're on commission, whether it's raining cats and dogs, you're going to get out there to get some money. You're going to be 100% in. Okay? Okay. The next one is what we call character. It's called character. Okay? And these are core values. These are ethics. This is what protects the quality of your products and your services, even in a recession, even in a crisis. You don't reduce quality, you don't reduce performance because of the situation. Okay, it's very, very crucial. That's one of the DNAs of a disruptive leader. There's character, there's strong moral and mental qualities that keep them, held up to a higher standard than the average person. Consistency. This is maintaining momentum. Okay, you're consistent in doing what it needs to take to get results. Momentum is the leader's best friend. It's a great exaggerator. Okay, so the moment you stop, it's usually harder to begin. So you just keep at it. Now there's a circle of success we call, and I'll give you this very quickly. TFLF, TFLIR. So you test, you fail, you learn, you improve, you re-enter. It just helps you to be consistent as a disruptive leader. You're testing new things. Yes, you will fail. You learn from your failures, you improve, and you re-enter the game. You're consistent. You are consistent. It's very crucial. Last but not the least here, before we enter quickly, the last few minutes to touch on emotional intelligence is care. This is part of the DNA of a disruptive leader. I mean, he or she cares for the people. You touch the hearts before you ask for a hand. And I've just learned that with people, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You touch their hearts. I mean, they will go into the fire with you. They will stick with you. Even when you can't pay them, they have to take pay cuts or they have to go without pay for a season, because now this is where emotional intelligence comes in, because they know you are empathetic about their situation. You truly care about them, because people really want to know, do you care about me? And once they know you do care, they're willing to go into the fire with you. I'm sure you've heard about the know, like, trust factor. People know you, they like you, they trust you because they know you truly care for them as a leader. It's a common phenomenon. You watch, you look at Google, you look at Apple. I just downloaded some photos, just studying them. There's a lot of friendship in the environment, and they're building friendships and bonds. So it's more like a family there. And that way they're able to get things done in that environment. Now, let's quickly look at the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. What are they? So 1 is self-awareness, 2 is empathy, motivation, self-regulation, and social skills. All I've shared so far on the DNA of a disruptive leader also finds itself in these 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. That's why it connects with the last one, DNA there, which is care. Okay, being able to care for yourself, loving and accepting yourself enables you to love other people. Okay, if you value yourself, you value people. You have a low self-esteem, low self-worth, it's going to affect your leadership. I remember sitting before with the director of human resources for a government organization, and they were discussing the promotion of a particular staff. And they said, well, this person is qualified and should be the person to take over, but they don't know how to relate with people. So they have all the other competencies, but they're very weak in emotional intelligence. And so they will hurt people. And by hurting people, they will hurt the organization. And so we don't think she's ready. Though in the head, she's ready because she has the intellectual capacity. In the heart, she's not ready because she doesn't really have a mastery of emotional intelligence. So that's where it becomes very key in the workplace and in life, connecting that DNA of care to emotional intelligence. Okay, so I'm getting set to wrap up. I just have maybe 2 more slides and we will go into Q&A. And if you need me to do a quick summary, I might do that if we still have time. But you see those 5 pillars there. So self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills are kind of put in 2 categories. So there's personal skills or competencies, and there's social skills or competencies. So one is personal, how we manage ourselves, self-leadership, how we're able to handle relationship with other leadership, okay? So under self-awareness, you see emotional awareness, accurate self-assessment, and self-confidence. We have a DISC assessment that we do. I'm also a certified DISC consultant that helps people to understand themselves. They have self-awareness through that DISC assessment. And that way, you know yourself so you can grow yourself, okay? The law of awareness says you can't grow yourself if you don't know yourself. So it becomes very crucial. Many people really don't know themselves, so they're not managing themselves well. So if you can't manage yourself well, how do you grow in leadership? Okay. Second, with self-regulation, that's where self-control comes, trustworthiness, conscientiousness, adaptability, and innovation come in self-regulation. Okay. A lot of Brian Tracy's work talks about the importance of self-discipline, doing what you should do when you should do it, even when you don't feel like it, is what sets leaders apart from followers. It's what sets the top achievers in any industry from those who don't achieve. The story was told of Michael Jordan, who one of his winning matches in the NBA championship, he had eaten the night before. He was hungry before the final game and went and ate the pizza. Obviously, he got food poisoning. He had a fever. He was throwing up, and he still had to go and play the game. And I mean, he was totally messed up. And he had to take the final shot, a few seconds, that gave the Chicago Bulls the championship. Okay, he was still able to lead himself to do what needed to be done for the team, put himself in that situation. Self-control, trustworthiness, conscientiousness, adaptability, innovation. Also, we see motivation there, that achievement drive. A research was done by Stanford University. One of the things that they look for when they want to promote people, CEOs look for, is that the person has a drive for achievement, okay? They're self-motivated. There's commitment, there's initiative, there's optimism, okay? They don't have to just keep pushing you like pushing a car to start every day. You take initiative. Number 4 there we see, coming to the other side of social skills, has to do, so the left-hand side has to do with managing yourself, okay? Take a screenshot of it and work on it, okay? On the right-hand side, we see how to handle relationships. So empathy comes in. Empathy, very, very crucial in the equation, okay? Your ability to understand and share the feelings of other people, your ability to put yourself in the shoes of others. They say, don't criticize a man until you've worked a mile in his moccasins. So you understand others. I mean, you're willing to develop others. The service orientation, you leverage on diversity, political awareness. Don't ask me what that means, okay? I won't get into that business today. But in a time like this where there is so much diversity, one of the things that sets a good leader from a great leader apart is their ability to leverage on diversity. That's a totally different training. I did a training on the innovative leader. That's one of the things that keeps them, apart from others. They're able to leverage on diversity within their team and from other sources also. Social skills, I mean, influence, your ability to get people, you set a goal and you get to move them towards that goal. Communication, back to what we saw in the DNA again. Conflict management, leadership, change catalyst. You build bonds, you're building bridges, collaboration and cooperation, team capabilities. This looks like some of the things you saw that the World Economic Forum talked about, and some of the things I talked about in the DNA of a disruptive leader. And so these are very key. Take a screenshot of them. Remember, you're making a commitment to keep learning till you die. You're not going to take the L off. So you have a lifetime to just take these things one after the other and learn them and relearn them and unlearn them, because so that you are not changed. Remember, Al-Matum said, change or be changed. So we're becoming the best versions of ourselves. Now, so when we are able to do what we just saw on this page, and pay attention to this, you know, time is not permitting me to go a lot into the how today, okay? And so I'm giving you more of what's, okay? Simply because of the constraint of time. So pardon me. Now, but if you are effectively engaging those things we've talked about, this will be the results, okay? Increase team performance. Okay, I think it was Napoleon who talked about China many years ago, that there lies a sleeping giant that if awakened will conquer the world. Napoleon saw something that nobody else saw. That's what leaders see. They can see way ahead. They see before, they see more, and they see before. China is fully awake, that giant awake. You know, so you have a lot of sleeping giants in your team. Okay, in our organizations, a lot of sleeping giants, like what Napoleon said about China. And when we begin to engage with emotional intelligence, it increases team performance. It decreases occupational stress. Okay, you know, I was sharing some thoughts I learned from Bob Chapman, that trying to change the workplace from thank God it's Friday to thank God it's Monday. Every leader's desire is to have a workplace where it is thank God it's Monday for the people that come in. Emotional intelligence decreases the occupational stress. It also improves decision making. You're able to make better and faster decisions, okay? Increase leadership ability. So your leadership ability just go off the roof because you're becoming more emotionally intelligent, and it increases personal well-being. The migraines, the stress, the pressure that we feel begins to be lightened because there's more engagement. Research shows that most organizations, it's only 25% engagement of the human capital or resources. Somebody said we should change it to even human assets, because they're assets, they're not resources to be used. Only 25% engagement in most organizations. Imagine having a factory where your engines and machines are only working at 25% capacity. That's 75% being lost in most systems. Okay, so we're gradually getting there. Having said all I've said, no plan is worth the paper it is printed on unless it starts you doing something. So all I've said will be useless to you if you're not connecting the dots between your life and your work and how you're going to engage the DNA of a disruptive leader or the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. Just pick one and start from there with yourself, with your team. No plan is worth the paper it's printed on unless it starts you doing something. So leaders have a bias to action. Even less talented people with fewer resources accomplish more if they have developed the habit of taking action. If you've read the 7 habits of highly effective people, Stephen Covey, you see that prompt action is one of those things, okay? The plan creates the track. The action provides the traction. We need traction right now. We have a plan, but what we need is traction, okay? Test, fail, learn, improve, re-enter. We need some traction right now. Let's not wait till the dust settles. Let's not wait till things get back to normal. They won't get back to normal before we begin to make the pivots we need to make. The greatest gap in success is between knowing and doing. Many of us have just stayed on the hills. A lot of you in this webinar, know all I've shared, may know more than what I've shared, but the gap is not in knowing, it's in doing. And that's the challenge I want to leave with you. That's why I asked you to move to that next level of where you begin to test, fail, learn, improve, re-enter. And I'm going to give you a strategy shortly. Now, so clarity for action. I mean, you have to be clear about what your why is as a person, what your why is as an organization. I read somewhere that organizations need to do that every 21 days so that everybody's on the same page, because a lot of people have forgotten even why they come to work or why the organization really exists. For ITM is to add value. It begins with that. I saw that, to add value. So everybody on the team, that should your mindset should be value addition through all the products and the services and everything that we do. Everyone we come in contact with should feel valued, even when we're under pressure. That begins to create, okay, so what do we need to do to help people feel valued through our products or services? So how are we going to do that? And when are we going to do that? You put a timeline to it. Now, the 24-hour rule simply says this. One, act upon what you learn within 24 hours. Now, so I've given you a lot of information. It's going to be totally useless to you if you do nothing with it within the next 24 hours. So you need to connect the dots, because there's something called the law of diminishing intent. It simply says the longer it takes for you to do something that you know you should do now, the greater the likelihood that you will never do it. And last but not the least, don't lick the wounds of failure for more than 24 hours. You've tested, you failed, learn from it, evaluate, get back into the game doing something, because the key is action, action. Everyone has $1 billion idea, but not everyone acts upon it. Leave this webinar with a bias for action, not perfection. And you realize that you keep making disruptions even before you are disrupted. Thank you. I do hope I've been able to add value to you. For my clock here, it's 59 minutes and 49 seconds. I do hope right now, I'll go to the chat room to see if there are questions. Good. I do hope you're going to do something with it in the next 24 hours in your life, in your department, your organization. It's very key. If not, what ITM has done will be useless. The law of diminishing intent will catch up with you. The longer it takes to do something that you know you should do now, the greater the likelihood that you will never do it. That's why I have a bias. When I'm reading a book, I don't wait to finish reading the book before I begin to connect the dots between my living and my leading. I don't wait to finish before I begin to connect the dots. I've been trapped with perfection in the past, and it cost me opportunities. So I rather get out and learn on the move. Okay, can you highlight the DNA of a disruptive leader again, please? Okay, great, great. Okay, if Nafisa can private chat me to let me know how many minutes I have. I'm not seeing questions. What I'm being asked to do is also to kind of review the 5 pillars and also review the DNA of a disruptive leader. So I'll take that for the Q&A if I'm not seeing questions come up. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, great. I'm glad I could add value to you. That's why I'm glad to be in this partnership with ITM, because we share the same values of adding value. Okay, so let me quickly do this while I'm still waiting for prompt from our organizers. The 5 pillars I said are self-awareness, empathy, motivation, self-regulation, and social skills. You can find these things on the internet. They're there, there's massive. But the key thing now is accountability for application, okay? That's moving from the hill of knowing to doing. I think that's where the work is. And that's why I want to challenge those of you who are part of teams who are in this webinar, is to just create team huddles where you are able to connect the dots between what you've learned and your work. When I go for a training, I'm looking at it with the lens of the work I'm doing. So it's speaking to all of us in different ways, okay, so that we can get an ROI. Okay, so over here we have the personal skills of competence, the social skills of competence, self-awareness. Just take a screen shot of it and go through it and take advantage of one of those disruptive innovations called Google to go have a deeper research and search on the subject matter. I have a book here, Emotional Intelligence 2.0, autographed by one of the authors, Travis Bradbury, and it's an amazing book. Okay, so I've done that for you. So let me go to quickly review the DNA. Uh-oh, okay. Is my time up?
Thank you. So yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Odemi, for this wonderful presentation. I think they didn't hear me at the beginning of the session because I mentioned that everyone should keep posting their questions on the chat box so you'd be able to take those questions once you're done. Please, if you have any questions, I've been seeing some appreciation posts. If you have any questions for Mr. Odemi, please kindly send those questions on the chat box so he would be able to answer. But I didn't take off your presentation, sir. If you have anything to add before you close the session, please feel free. I was not the one that took off your presentation. You can just round up quickly so we can take the questions and then I would round up. If you have something else to add, you can do that.
Okay, yeah, somebody asked for me to quickly just go, let me just highlight them, the DNA of a disruptive leader. So let me just quickly run through that in 2 minutes for the person, I think that's it. And if there are questions, I'll take that. If not, so the DNA of a disruptive, one is clarity. They're clear of their why, okay? Competence, they're constantly, because the competencies that brought us into COVID will not take us out and keep us after. They're curious, so they have an unsatisfied thirst and hunger for learning, unlearning, and relearning. They're creative. They're able to just turn those ideas into reality. Communication. So that's where, I mean, there's free flow of ideas within the organization. It's many good ideas that give birth to a great idea. When an idea comes, it's good, okay? And we must move from good to great, okay? Collaboration, which is the currency of the 21st century, I said. Teamwork is what makes the dream work. One of us is not as smart as all of us. Courage, okay? Just willing to take that risk to get results. Acting in spite of uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty in a crisis like COVID-19, but you must be willing to leave your comfort zone to grab the opportunities that exist out there. Then coaching, this is bringing in the place of external players to just hold you accountable, to operate at a higher level of awareness for action to get results. Commitment, you're 100% in, okay? You're all in, you burn bridges. So it reminds me of the story of the general in the army who went to fight troops, enemy that was stronger than him, and somehow they burned their boats, and they knew that they had to win or die, okay? Character, this has to do with ethics, has to do with core values to protect the quality of your products and services. Um, right motives. Consistency, you maintain momentum. I talked about the test, fail, learn, improve, re-enter model. So you never stop. You're always at one of those levels, testing, failing, learning, you're improving, and you're re-entering the game. And I talked about care, which connects with the issue of empathy and just connecting with the hearts of the people so that you have their hands, their head, and their feet on the job because they feel valued. Because when people don't feel valued, they can't really add value to your system. Okay, so I think that's it. Let me see the chat. Um, okay, I think Nafisa, thank you very much. I think you should go over the ITM, go stuff again, what you guys do, because everybody didn't get that. So I don't have any questions on my side. So I think
Okay,
I'm good.
before I would run through, maybe the question would come in
Okay,
as I'm
good.
talking, so we can take it and just round up with it. Thank you so much once again, sir, for this very insightful webinar. Thank you so much. It was really interesting. I wish it could go on for 1 more hour. I was really, engaged in it and all. I hope everyone is ready to be a disruptive leader. The thing is not to try to feel, oh, what if I fall? You have to think, what if I fly, right? That's the meaning. I hope everyone has been able to learn, unlearn, and relearn, as he has mentioned. So I would quickly go through what ITM does before all the questions comes in, and then he will, take up the questions at once, and then we can wrap up the session. So if you can kindly stop sharing your screen so I could share mine.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. So quickly, the first time I spoke about ITM, most people didn't really get it because my internet was terrible. Sorry about that. So like I said, ITM Nigeria is part of a Pan-African group of companies founded in 2011 in Democratic Republic in South Africa, Tanzania, Angola, Nigeria, and Germany. Our services include human resource solutions, sales and distribution, supply chain, and industry solutions. So, but majorly in Nigeria, our focus mainly for now is the human resource solutions. We have the e-learning, ITM's e-learning platform has a range of courses that covers different sectors. These courses can be taken at your own pace once you register. We also conduct live sessions for our tailored courses per organization needs. Please don't forget to log on to our e-learning platform to go through these courses, as you might find something that interests you. The link will be shared to your emails. Our staff trainings and capacity building programs. With that, we offer in-class trainings, both locally and internationally, for public and private sectors. We have a pool of experienced facilitators with vast knowledge from all over the world. Our recruitment service is divided into two. We have the e-recruitment, where we conduct everything virtually, from the assessments, the interviews, the trainings, and the onboarding. And we also have office and the client's office. I would like to also mention that we have an office in Abuja, and then we have skeletal offices in Kano and Lagos here in Nigeria. ITM outsource. For our outsourcing, we outsource staff for companies in all sectors. We hire and manage those staff. We assign the KPIs. We monitor productivity and conduct appraisals for the staff. We do these for companies that don't have an in-house HR or companies that want to outsource a particular marketing department. It could be outsourced and managed for efficiency and productivity. For our company restructuring, we structure and restructure companies. This product is for the companies that don't have a proper corporate structure or are worried that their staff are not performing as expected. We come in and take a needs assessment. We assess if their staff are qualified for the positions they are holding. We assess their job description. We train the staff and so on, so as to boost productivity. We also do the team building and retreat activities for organizations. Thank you so much. All the other things have been taken care of. I wanted to introduce the trainer, but which he has done and every other thing. So I'd like to stop my share now, and Mr. Odeyemi will take the questions if we have from the chat box. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nafisa. Okay, I'm trying to get the questions chat. I kind of lost the chat.
Do you want me to read out some of the questions to you, sir?
Sure, I will appreciate that if you could.
Okay, so someone says, what are some strategies to adopt in order to navigate and still remain relevant post-COVID-19?
Yeah, well, for me, it goes back to learning. You need to be close to what we call staying close to the fire. What that simply means that there are people in your industry who are thriving in the midst of COVID. They might be at different levels, capital base and structure and all of that, but there are still things to learn from them. And that's the way basically I learn. I learn from people in my industry who are doing it at the peak level. So I will encourage anyone who is thinking of a strategy is to find out who are the top 5 people, top 10 people in my industry, and what are they doing during this COVID? How have they been able to navigate the COVID storm? And you now adapt their strategies and before you adopt them to your own local content at the end of the day. But you can't just come up with a strategy in isolation to the realities that are going on. And so I think reach out to them, go to their website. If you can make a physical call and just ask questions, and it will shock you this period, people are willing to just share because a lot of collaboration is going on at a time like this. Okay, those are my own little thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Another person says, not every leader can have all the listed DNA of a good leader. So which will you prioritize?
Good one. I think if I go by the statement that Warren Buffett made, he said there are 3 things that he looks for when he's employing people. One is energy, 2 is competence, and the 3rd one is character. And he said, well, if they don't have the last one, he doesn't bother about the first 2.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So that's very key. And you can always bring people on board on a team. So you have a team of people who have the different DNAs. And that's where diversity comes in. So somebody is good at this and all of that. So you have the right people. If you read Jim Collins' book, the right bus, the right people on the right seats in the bus, it just makes the trip much easier.
I agree. Thank you so much. Another person says, how can you stay true to your core business in this innovative time?
Yeah, very good question. Now, I will encourage people, stick to your why, but your methods may change. So now, let me use ITM for example. The core thing, the first thing you see in their statement there is to add value. And they can add value in so many ways. So new businesses can come out of COVID that they were not doing before, and they can stop some they were doing before, but they're still ITM, adding value to people. So I think stick to your mission, but be flexible with the methods you're accomplishing what your mission is. The problem is that most people don't know why they're in business in the first place. And so when a model is affected, they're kind of totally disrupted. I don't know if I made sense.
Yeah, you do. Please, the person that asked the question, if you have any follow-up question, you can kindly indicate in the chat box, but you were clear enough. Someone else said, sir, you spoke about leadership and management. How can one avoid being a manager instead of a leader? The lines look blur.
Yeah, very good question. Now, I would say that somehow a leader needs to be able to have a full understanding of both. Management has to do with maintenance, maintaining. So you don't want to sink. So systems and structure need to be working. Okay, so you're staying afloat. You might not be moving forward, but at least you're not sinking. But the leader is willing to take risk and chart new territories, break new grounds, like they say. And so you need both, but you can always collaborate and partner with the other. So you're a fantastic leader. You can start things. You bring people on the team that can sustain those things through systems and structures.
Okay, thank you very much. This question says, can anyone recommend an instrument for measuring employees' preferred leadership style? And then he has a follow-up question that says, finally, sir, what is the appropriate leadership style to lead your team in the light of the global epidemic, pandemic, quarantine, and remote leadership?
Great. Assessing your people. I talked about, I don't know, ITM may have something. We have what we call the DISC assessment. And the DISC assessment helps you to just know everybody on the team, okay? So you have an awareness, their strengths, their weaknesses, and all those personality profile stuff that we do, okay? So But I don't know, Nafisa, if you guys have something, you can also recommend that to the person with the question, that helps them to be able to just know the people who are on their team so they can get the best from them. Regarding the best leadership style during this pandemic, I think if you apply the DNA, first of all, let them know that you care about them, but also you need to bring them up to speed with clarity of why you exist. I told you the example of how I had to meet with the staff in my wife's organization and tell them, you know, we're here to make profit. Without the profit, we can't stay in business. We're not in business. It simply means you don't have a job. It's not being harsh. It's just painting reality. But if we're all committed to still pursuing with clarity what our mission is, then we can all still keep smiling. Sense of ownership, sense of buy-in, and not a sense of entitlement at the end of the day. And when they know that you truly care about them and they can empathize with you, because leaders need empathy also, you know, then it just makes the win-win for everybody at the end of the day. So I think that's just the key thing. So apply the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence and allow people talk. Let them share what their fears are, what their anxieties, uncertainties, and you bring clarity. That's what leaders do. They bring perspective. Okay, so they paint reality, like Jack Welch would say, you know, but they also paint the opportunities that exist in the midst of the looming bleak reality that is there, if we're all willing to do the work. Okay, Nafisa, are you there? I think I'm done with that. Nafisa, you're muted, so you need to unmute yourself to take over.
Sorry about that, sir. I wasn't able to, the network was a bit slow.
No problem at all.
Okay, so the final thing is I would like you to, someone asked for your LinkedIn handle, but I would like you to please kindly share your handle for your Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, if you have any, please, your social media handles so that we can share, because a lot of people are asking
Okay,
for your
unfortunately,
social media handle.
yeah, I didn't put up the slide for that because I mean I didn't know what protocol exists on this platform. Okay, so but it's Odeyemi Olaiwole for Facebook, for Instagram, and it's at Yemi Olaiwole for Twitter, and LinkedIn is also Odeyemi Olaiwole.
Thank you so much, sir. But maybe you can send it to me and I'll attach it to the follow-up email that will be sent out to everyone.
Okay,
So they'll
fine.
be
No,
able to, yeah, they'll be able to get it.
yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much.
I think without any final question, would you like? Okay. So I would like to introduce the country manager for ITM to have the final word before we close the session. Thank you so much once again, sir, for this amazing presentation. Do have a nice day.
You too. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm unmuting.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Odeyemi. It was such a wonderful presentation, and I really invited and encouraged all the leaders I know in their offices and other thought leaders to join this session because it's such a sore and core subject that needs to be treated, and it goes both ways. So I really appreciate your thoroughness in the presentation and your engagement. I would like to thank my team members as well for facilitating this webinar. And like mentioned in the beginning, it's a 5-part webinar. So we have other webinars coming up on a weekly basis. So I would hope that everyone here enjoyed. I can see people really appreciating and complimenting the presentation. So I would hope that you would join us again because we have so many more experts that will talk in their fields. I just want to quickly remind you that the feedback link has been sent to you personally in the chat box. Please fill it and suggest give us the feedback on how we've done so far. And if you have any topics, suggest it. And if you have any questions, please go to our website. All our contact information is there. And finally, thank you very much to everyone that's joined. It's been very engaging and we really appreciate you. So once again, my name is Habiba Oziri, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you and take care.